recently been away for a few days. I've been to the East Coast. I visited Whitby, Staithes and Robin Hood's Bay. So they're all like fishing villages and ports. Whitby's quite a big port. The other two, very small, intimate little places. So I've got loads of photos for painting ideas. And this is one of them. This is in Staithes, just sort of where the river flows into the sea. And there's a couple of fishing boats there. I thought this would make a nice painting. So let's get into it. I've chosen Artrage 5 to paint this picture. I thought I'd do it as a watercolour. I think it'll suit watercolour really well. And I'm using the hard and dark pencil to begin with a sketch. And I start off sketching in the buildings in the centre of the page. And you can see straight away, I've got way too big. So I do have to use the select tool and just to shrink them down to size a little bit before I carry on. And this is one or two people have been saying that they're amazed when I just sort of go in painting and I don't use any sketches or anything, and I put in these really weird abstract shapes and then work to the detail. But when I'm doing watercolor, I've said this before, I always do quite a detailed sketch, and the actual sketch becomes part of that painting. I don't try and hide the pencil lines. I feel they become part of that painting. So here we are with this pencil sketch going in. It's going in quite nice. I think I had to move things around once or twice just to get them exactly where I wanted. But I'm really liking the flow of the thing, the way the posts sort of take you up to the buildings and then your eyes take you up through the buildings as well. So that's cool. I've got this little bit of a wall on the right hand side to stop you sort of falling off the edge of the paper. A little bit of detail just to sort of balance it all out with the benches and the three little boats there. I'm not too fussed about all that land, all the bushes and stuff at the bottom right. I just felt that the benches and the boats is really what I'm into. And then I move everything up and then I crop round just the boats and I just shrink them down just a little bit. I felt there was a little bit on the large size, and then put in the bit of a jetty, I suppose. So that is getting pretty much close to the end of the sketch. I'm just putting the boat in. I actually started this painting as an oil painting in Artrage on the iPad, and it, for some reason, it didn't record, which was a bit of a disaster. But I just spent about, I don't know, half an hour on it painting, and I wasn't happy how it was going anyway, so I scrapped that and decided to do it as a watercolour. Here I'm sort of trying to get these clouds in with the blue and the cream colour, but every time I blend them together with the Harsh Chaos brush, I was getting a green, and I didn't want that. So what I did, I created two layers, and I put the blue on one layer and the cream colour on the second layer, and then used the harsh brush to blend them out so they didn't actually mix together. And the brush I'm using for most of this painting is Delicate on Dry, straight out the can, as it were. Didn't mess around with the controls of the brush at all. I don't think I changed the pressure or thinners or anything like that. And I'm just getting sort of local colour over the whole of the painting at this point. I just want to sort of get the old white canvas covered, a few dark colours on the buildings, just sort of local to the walls. I'm not bothered about detail at all. I'm just sort of getting a wash. This would be a really thin colour wash that would be going on if I was using real watercolour, just almost coloured water really. And notice I'm leaving lots of light areas. I'm not taking those green, that green hill right to the top of the paper. I've sort of left it to fade away and bleed out. I did almost like a vignette really. because I just felt that would be really dominating and would spoil the photo. So I kept it really light and loose, and then just put a little bit of darker detail down at the bottom of the hill, and then I'm putting some more shadows in on those houses. And I'm still using the Delicate on dry brush, just getting in washes, but now I'm up to 4 layers now, so I am sort of overlaying and letting colours shine through other colours. And I'm also using the watercolor blend mode. The Artrage is the only piece of software I've ever seen that has a blend mode called watercolor, so I thought I'd give it a go, and it just lets the colours beneath glow through as they would with a real watercolor, so that's nice. So the water, I kind of struggled with this a lot really, and I sort of put this dark wash on, which was, it's all right at that stage, but I think I went wrong with using the Arch Chaos to blend it out. And then I tried to get some local colour in it. I put the boat in. I felt I kind of went in with quite a bit of detail in this boat, sort of blending shadows underneath it, and really trying to I spent time on it, and it looks a little bit out of place with the rest of the painting, I felt, and I'm not happy with the water at all, and it starts to get muddier and muddier. And then I changed the brush. I used the wet on wet brush, and it did these really funky things with the colours. You see the right of the boat, and it was just put the I like that effect, but I wasn't liking everything else it was doing. And look how dirty and that water looks now. So I sort of carried on for a bit, and then looked at it and thought, you know what, I am going to delete that. So I deleted one of the layers, then I had to use the eraser to rub out the rest of the water. I'm still trying to salvage it by using the eraser to take away some of the colour, but in the end, here we go. This is where I decide that enough's enough. I've got to do it again. So if you was doing a real watercolour, I'd have just stuck that under the tap, that part of the painting. I'd have took it to the bathroom, put it in the bath, and just run the water over it to get the water off. So I don't consider this cheating at all. And then I got I put water on. It doesn't particularly look like water too much, I guess, at this point, but I'm much happier with the looseness of it. That's what I didn't want it to look overworked, and it was really looking sludgy, and you know, I just didn't want that. So then I'm using the wet on wet brush again. Now when I use the wet on wet brush, I pumped up the thinners. I added some more water into it because it was just too solid, I felt, without doing that. So that is the only brush really where I changed the settings on it by adding some water, and I use that. But I did like it because the delicate brush didn't quite get dark enough colours for me, and I just wanted to sort of get it that little bit darker, and I was able to do that with the wet on wet brush. And notice I'm painting in a few stones. So some of them I've kind of painted the mortar in and left the stones clear, and then other times I've actually physically painted a rectangle shape for the stones of the building. And I'm just sort of going in. I think I got scared with the water, and I put that initial wash in, and I thought I'll have a break from it and start working on the rest of the painting and getting a bit of detail in. Then I had another go at the boat, but this time look how I am much looser with it, and I'm not blending those shadows off the same. I've left it quite harsh, and I'm much happy with that. I think that now that boat looks as though it belongs to this painting, whereas before it wasn't. It just wasn't feeling right. So then I want some even darker lines, and I use another brush, and this I've never used this one before. This is called Harsh Lines, and it just enabled me to add some darker lines. And then I created a new layer, set the blend mode to multiply, and started painting shadows in, because I felt the old thing was looking a bit flat and it just wanted lifting up. So by setting the blend mode to multiply, I can put this sort of blue-grey wash over it and add those nice shadows, but still see the underlying painting beneath it, which is exactly what I wanted, really. So I'm really pleased with how that went. And then I'm going in there again, adding a few more details. I used a little bit of white as well to sort of lift some of those stones out. Then I go in with the bench. I'm not really, this is sort of bottom right of the painting, and I don't want to be doing a lot of detail on this, because you don't want your eye to be drawn to that corner of the painting. So you've got to keep it really loose. So I used sort of reasonably muted colours. I do go into it again a bit later on and just sharpen it up a little bit, but not too much. Then I put those little bits of rope in on those posts. I felt that added quite something to it. Back into that bench again, and you can see I'm lifting the colours out of the rest of the painting, so I've got a nice balance of colour in there. So I'm working with a sort of a blue orangey palette, really, sort of blue-green orange palette, and sticking with that very limited colour range to keep a nice harmonious painting. Then I decide I want to put in this second boat. So this is when the harsh lines brush really came in handy, because it was like using opaque paint like gouache, where I was able to paint that boat over the old on a layer without having to sort of erase all of the details in the layers below. And I just started fiddling around and neating things up a little bit. That little bit of red draws your eye to the boat on those sort of buoy things. Added a little bit more detail to the water, and there we go. That is my painting of Staithes. I don't know what you call it, where the river flows into the sea. Is that an estuary or something like that? But anyway, that's it. That's my first painting from my trip to the East Coast. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, a big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I've got lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.